All right. Covino and Rich, Overpromised, the bonus podcast of your dreams.
In your dreams, Pedro, in your dreams.
What's up, buddy?
Normally we're on Fox Sports Radio, 2 to 4 on the West, Monday through Friday, 5 to 7 on the East. But again, so much fun stuff to get to. We never have enough time, so we bring it here. I'm Steve Covino. That is Rich Davis. This is Overpromised. And I know you're super pumped about football.
Oh, we're getting into week 2 of the NFL. And this is a show that you got to be watching if you're a big football fan. And we got the star of that show. The show is called American Sports Story. Aaron Hernandez, star. Josh Andres Rivera is joining us. What's up, man? How you doing?
What up, Josh?
I'm great. How are you guys today?
Thanks for being here. Again, we're always looking for something great to watch, like Rich said. This premieres on the 17th on FX. You, Patrick Schwarzenegger, and dude, congratulations. First and first, mostly congrats on all your success. You guys may have seen him in West Side Story, Hunger Games, Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, Hamilton. Rich, you're a huge Hamilton guy.
I love Hamilton.
And now portraying Aaron Hernandez, which is exciting and controversial and all those things.
Well, dude, yeah, I have a million questions, but I see the guitars in the background. You got a guitar behind you.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing you're a music guy.
We got so much in common. I got a piano over here too.
Oh, Rich, he plays the piano.
Yeah. So I'll ask you this, Josh. What are your thoughts about Kendrick Lamar, Super Bowl halftime show? Are you a fan? Good idea, bad idea? What are you thinking?
I think it's a good idea. I mean, he's really hot and popping right now. I mean, most recently, you really can't go anywhere in the last 2 months without hearing Not Like Us. I mean, he's been everywhere, so it makes sense. I've liked Kendrick for a really long time.
My thought though was I might like Kendrick, Covino might, you might, but I say, does it pass the mom and dad test? Like if you ask your parents, like Kendrick Lamar, are they going to say who's that, or are they going to know Kendrick Lamar?
That's a really good point. I genuinely didn't think about that.
Like, for example, I'm not a big Taylor Swift fan, right? I'm not a hater either, but I'm not what you would call a fan. I'm not a Swiftie, but I know 20 of her songs that I could sing along to.
There's a wide appeal there.
Right.
I know what you're talking about.
Right. But either way, big news this week.
Yeah, when you put it like that, it is kind of a specific. I'm curious. That's a good question. I wonder.
Yeah, people are talking all about it. But let's get into your show, man.
Yeah, speaking of Super Bowls and speaking of football.
Aaron Hernandez, first I want to talk about the transformation, dude, because I'm guessing to turn into Aaron Hernandez on this show, I'm guessing fitness, I'm guessing a trainer. You had a thing to yourself, all right, haircut yeah. When they do the fake tattoos, like there's a lot that goes into the transformation process, I'm guessing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, initially getting the part, I was quite a bit lighter than I am now. And right now I'm a bit lighter than I was while I was filming. I'm very motivated by not making a fool of myself,
Yeah.
I pretty much as soon as I got it, I was like, okay, I need to get really big. I need to look like an NFL guy. So yeah, we got a trainer and he helped me out with some of my diet stuff. And we were just working out like every day. It was like 5 days a week. And then we would do 2 days of like dedicated like football practice where I would learn how to run routes and like catch and just get a little bit better about that so I look natural. And it was crazy, man. It was like in the span of 3 months, I think I gained 30 pounds and I was walking around with like just a completely different body. It was
probably attitude, 30 pounds.
Yeah, man. It was so funny. I because I really sort of dove headfirst into the prep process. So I wasn't hanging out quite as much with my friends. And towards the beginning of the show, after I had finished all of this prep, I saw a friend that I hadn't seen in a long time. And I had my head shaved and my ears were pierced. And like I had all of this new stuff. And he was like, dude, you look like you would bully me.
Wait, hold on. There's so many questions there. So you get the role, you put on all this weight. I'm actually interested in how he put on all this muscle and everything. But what type of research? You said you dove headfirst into it. Yeah. You're from Colorado, right? So I'm imagining you know a lot about the Broncos and things like that. I'm sure you know the story, but what type of research did you actually do to learn more about Aaron Hernandez?
As far as this story in particular, I knew just about as much as anybody else would that there was this guy who was on top of the world and then he murdered somebody, which I thought was as wild as anybody else. And it wasn't really until I was, asked about auditioning for it that I started to consume everything that was available. And the Boston Globe had this great podcast. That's what the show's based on. And I think the idea, is like, oh man, it's crazy. This guy's a murderer. And it's very easy to kind of like have this binary perception of what that means. And the more that you dive into it, it's like there's so many layers. There's layers and layers and layers. Him leaving school early, and then the kinds of stuff that he did in Florida, and his relationship with his dad, and his relationship with his masculinity and sexuality, as we found out after he passed. And it's just a ton of different factors that kind of really complicate the story as a whole, right? So
I'm guessing when you dive in like this, and you learn all this stuff, like you just said it, the relationship with the dad, all the layers, do you find empathy for a guy that was bad because you're playing him, and so you're sort of putting yourself in his world? Is there empathy you feel in an odd way?
I mean, in order to do my job well, I kind of have to, right?
Yeah.
It's difficult to make an authentic seeming portrayal if you hate the person that you're playing just totally. So yeah, I mean, I had to approach it from like an empathetic lens, you know. And it did kind of surprise me. There's a lot of different perspectives surrounding the whole thing, right? Like you hear a lot of people, especially in the months after like all of the shit went down, like talking about how great of a guy he was, and he was always so goofy, and he was always so fun to be around and good humored. And that was something really surprising for me to learn, because I didn't know about what anybody personally thought about him. And I found that to be really interesting. And then starting from that place, it's like, well, I have to portray him in a way that he seems likable to some people, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yeah, it's an interesting question in terms of like the level of empathy I have with the situation in reality, because in reality it's a little bit different than me playing it in an adaptation, right? Um, yeah, I feel a lot of ways about it.
We're here with Josh Rivera, American Sports Story, Aaron Hernandez, again on FX 917. 8 episodes, by the way, so I'm super pumped about that.
10.
Oh, it's 10.
10.
I was told 8. Perfect, man. So we're going to get some juice. We're going to learn a lot.
Bonus for you.
Nice, nice. Were you concerned about taking the role? Obviously, you're pumped about it. It's a cool opportunity for you. Any concern there, because now you are associated with this guy? There's going to be a lot of people introduced to you for the first time that they now think of you in a weird way, even though it's pretend, it's acting, but you're him. And if you're doing a great job at it, then they're really going to associate you with him.
Yeah, that was something that crossed my mind in the beginning, early on. But I don't know. I don't think it just, the more that I was reading about it, the more interesting it was.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way that I thought about it. I was like, man, this is just so, it's just so many things. Like it's so many cool questions that I get to ask myself, and so many different avenues. And there's this like existing perspective around the whole situation that the nation has, that it's kind of interesting to explore that. But also, there's a reason why I've got some facial hair and I grew my hair out, and so I
Right,
like to
yeah.
in day-to-day life look a little bit different.
Back to
than that,
being Josh.
which I think is helpful in terms of kind of separating the character versus me.
Josh, I saw Doc Rivers when Lawrence Fishburne played him in Clipped. He met with him. He picked up on his mannerisms, and he said he actually enjoyed that. He really didn't know much about Doc Rivers going into that. Obviously, Aaron Hernandez isn't here anymore. Did you find yourself watching clips, watching videos, and like looking in the mirror and trying to pick up on those mannerisms and tendencies and cadences? Or is that how you sort of prep as well?
Yeah, definitely. I did that towards the beginning. Something that I really tried to avoid though was doing like a copying or just like completely imitating, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because like I said, there's like an established perspective around the whole situation, and people already feel a certain way about it and have their expectations. And I have to come up with an embodiment that's like compatible with that rather than copying that. Because if I try to copy it, it's just not going to be successful. You know, we're different people, we carry ourselves differently, but what I can do is make an adaptation of that sort of core essence. And that's what I try to do. And there were some kind of anchors that I had here and there. You know, this guy like smiles a lot and he kind of hides behind his eyes a little bit, and there's just something going on underneath at times. And you know, there were like I said, I call them anchors, but it's kind of little things like that I tried to keep in mind.
Hey, speaking of those little things, you mentioned that he was perceived as a goofball and somewhat likable. Were there other things you learned about him in your research that you were surprised by? Any little fun facts? You're like, yeah, I would have never thought that about Aaron Hernandez. I never knew that.
I don't know that I would call them fun facts. You know, I think I learned a lot.
Yeah, maybe not fun facts.
Okay, man, any surprises? Like, yeah, I didn't know he was
I learned a lot about his early life that I didn't know about. That was really, in a lot of ways, I think, at times, even though he became this superstar, in a lot of personal growing ways, he was set up for failure, you know?
So the opposite of fun facts.
Yeah,
I didn't know that he had left high school a semester early to pursue college football with the Florida Gators. And so he was playing for Florida, I believe, at 17, either that or he just turned 18, very, very young. And then he was the youngest player ever drafted into the league for one of the biggest teams, you know, in recent history. Just all of that to happen so fast, so young. I mean, I'm thinking about, like, I did West Side Story how many years ago, and then it kind of very quickly became, you know, sweat stain, my bad. And very quickly became what it is. But, you know, I'm like a realized adult. Like, I feel like kind of in control of, for the most part, of who I am. But when you're in those formative years, like, the way that you absorb information is different. Like, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that contributed to what ended up happening, but like, I think early on played a pretty big part.
When you think of the path of Aaron Hernandez and the, you know, interesting people he played with and worked with, has anyone like a Tim Tebow or Tom Brady, has there been any communication with the people that were close to him through his career? Like, have you heard from Bill Belichick or any of the people that actually supported Aaron through the bad times? Like any family or friends?
His family.
Yeah. Has anyone reached out to you?
No. And, you know, in prepping for it, I didn't really have that resource. And I, you know, I've been asked about that. Like if I'm nervous for people to reach out and such, but it's like, I got the information that I got that was available to everybody. I try to look at it as objectively as possible and then make the embodiment that I think is most useful for this story. And, you know, I really hope people take it in a positive way and in an informative way. Because my whole thing is I'm just trying to do my job the best I can. Right.
Yeah. And interesting to know that all the people you name, Rich, they're all going to be watching. We're all going to be watching. Right. So that's also interesting to know. Now, you mentioned that Aaron Hernandez knew early on, as a very young man, not even out of high school, that he was going to play football. At what point did you realize you had the chops to do this on this level? Did you always know that?
Yeah. No.
So when did you gain the confidence? How?
I don't know, man. I had this funny experience where I started doing theater and I was in Hamilton for a little while. You brought that up.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of like, yeah, man, I'll sing and I'll dance for as long as like it makes me enough money to live. And then I got West Side Story out of that. And when I got West Side Story, I was like, tight, like I'm Hollywood now. I made it.
Yeah.
I'm good. And then COVID happened and I ran out of my money and I was like, I was going to go live with my mom. I had to work at this bar for a little while. And I remember people at my bar would be like, hey, weren't you in that movie? I'd be like, no. That was, you think it's somebody else.
Oh, wow. We often wonder about that, right? Because you're always waiting for that next gig.
Acting's not easy. My wife and I were at a place out here in LA having lunch and I'm like, isn't that the girl from the show you watch? People don't realize that gig to gig until you get really established, which is where you're at now, establishing. Now you're a couple big things deep. It's not easy, man, right?
It's not, no. And it's not uncommon too. Yeah, that is something that happens a lot until you get to like a really certain tier. And you know what? Like I still have some mechanisms in me. It's difficult for me to relax, which I think is nice because
Keeps you
I
hungry,
work
bro.
hard. Yeah, exactly. But like to your point of what you asked, like I don't know, now every time I get a job, I'm like, I need to do really, really good. I need to knock it out of the park. I need to be the very best because otherwise, like I have this horrible destructive thing in my brain that's like, well, it was nice while it lasted. Like,
I think anyone in a performing world, we think that all the time. Like maybe this is the last show. Like instead of enjoying it, you worry about that shit. I feel you, man.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. Yeah. I actually have a confession. After meeting you, I was going to watch anyway, but now I'm definitely watching because you seem like a cool dude and I'm supporting you. But American Sports Story, Aaron Hernandez, my confession is, I never watched West Side Story, and I grew up loving the original, and that's why I didn't watch it. I know. You were Chino, right?
Yeah, I was Chino. There you go. That's your weekend watch this weekend.
So my confession is I'm sorry, but I put it off, and my family loved it. And my mom was like, I don't know if I'm going to like it, because that's a classic, right? She loved it. I haven't watched it, but now I'll be watching it this weekend, and on the 17th, I'll be watching this new show, man. I'm so pumped about it.
I'm so glad. I hope you enjoy the movie. Spielberg knocked that one out of the park.
All right, man, for sure. I'm late to it. I apologize.
More importantly, though, next Tuesday, 17th, FX. This is gonna go live, and I hope everybody tunes in. I hope you guys like it. Everybody worked really hard on it, so
we're pumped, man. We'll definitely be watching and supporting you.
10 episodes.
Where can people hit you up on social media if they want to say what's up?
Well, I got an Instagram. It's just my full name, Josh Andres Rivera. So you can see me there. I'm pathetic with social media. I'll just tell you that right now. I'm absolutely useless. So I'm not on very often, but right now I'm posting a lot because I gotta promote.
Gotta promote that shit.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm still getting used to it. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, there you are. Look at you.
Hey, look at that.
Dude, posting thirst traps. Look at you.
That's the first thirst trap that I have gotten, like high-end quality subsidized like production.
How you say you're not good at social media and then have that on there? You should see my weak ass social media.
That's very new. It's a new terrain for me. Like I'm telling you guys, this is a new landscape.
That's great.
You're gonna have production quality thirst traps from now on.
Nice. Well, continued success, man. We appreciate it and congrats on everything.
Thanks, man. Josh Rivera. Thanks, buddy.
Josh, thank you, buddy.
Nice to meet y'all.
Again, it's Overpromised, our bonus podcast, Covino and Rich. Thanks for hanging out with us. Now, Rich, I know you had one more thing you wanted to talk about, Jason Kelce.
Well, I felt like we could all relate to Jason Kelce because his first day on the job, he forgot his travel bag. Did you see this? Take a look.
Future gold jacket wearer. He got a podcast that apparently is doing fairly well. And all that said, Jason Kelce is wearing a shirt he got at the mall because he left his travel bag in the truck. Left the bag in the truck.
Fits my belly now. I've lost a little bit of weight, but my tits are still.
Can you say tits on ESPN?
Hey, the fact that a Hall of Fame center can shop at Lululemon, that's big, man. That's a big accomplishment.
But it made me think, what's the worst thing you could leave at home when you travel? Because you and I travel quite a bit for Fox Sports and Sirius XM. Like, what do you hate leaving behind?
It's very specific depending on what you're traveling for, what you do. Maybe you bring your work with you, right? So I have an answer, but I think it's also a matter of what not to pack, and I think you should leave the goofy outfits his brother wears at home. That is terrible.
Leave your bucket hat at home?
I'm not hating. I'm just stating, what was this? So regardless of what Jason bought at the mall, right, it looks better than this mush-mouth bucket hat that he's wearing. That's just ridiculous.
Apparently that's like a $600 hat.
I don't care.
I know, I'm saying, I'm just saying it's a Gucci bucket
Gucci.
hat.
What did it say about being a henchman in a Statham movie?
The picture of those two looks like they're Mahomes and Kelce look like henchmen in a bad Statham movie.
Look, I'm just hating, I guess, a little bit out of fun because they're both in the news when it comes to their wardrobe. But again, it's a question to ask yourself because if you could answer it, then you know this should be the first thing I pack every time.
Dude, right? So I know when I pack, who gives a shit about what I pack? But I always make sure I have contact lenses because anyone that wears contact lenses or glasses, if you leave that behind, you could be in a random city blind. What are you going to do? Like, I got no contacts? But I think that the top answer on the board is how many times have you got to your hotel or you're on the plane and you're like, fuck, I forgot my phone charger. And then you got to buy some overpriced garbage one
at the airport.
So phone charger's number one, but I have a couple stories of things I have forgotten.
Okay.
And these are warnings, if anything, for you not to forget them like I did. Go out of town for a wedding, you pack your suit and your garment bag, you got your tie, your clip, your cufflinks, your nice watch. I forgot my dress shoes. So I get there and I'm like, oh no. So then you got to find like a Payless or a Target or something and pick up like the
maybe
lamest
you can wear
pair.
a pair of your wife's extra shoes, because De La Hoya recently said on Club Shay Shay that every guy wears his wife and girlfriend's clothes from time to time. I was like, they do? That's news to me, De La Hoya.
The only thing my wife and I share?
Yeah.
Socks. And I know you think that's weird.
I do think that's weird.
In the winter, a pair of black tube socks? Take them.
Here's the thing with that, though. You can replace them. You go to Target, you buy some cheapos, some Goodfellows, whatever they have there. You go to Payless shoe store. You can always replace them. It's just the hassle of it, right? The worst thing is to leave something specific to what you do at home. Like, everybody does a podcast, but we work in radio, right?
Yeah.
So if we leave a specific wire that we need at home.
I've done this.
Hey, there might not be a Radio Shack around to replace that. Like a charger, yeah, you could always find a charger somewhere.
Yeah.
But to find that specific wire that you might need for your equipment, again, depending on what you do, it's going to be very specific. That's hard to do. You're looking for a Best Buy, a Guitar Center. That's very specific. You don't want to leave those things.
I'll give you one more. What would you do?
Yeah.
And then we'll say farewell to another overpromised. You get to the wedding. You get to the event. It could be a family party. You're wearing a suit. You forgot to pack your dress socks, and all you got are your not your no-show, but like your ankle ones. Like, do you wear the ankle socks?
No, you see the Nike emblem. No, you can't do that.
Okay, fair enough.
And by the way, if you're going to an event, your credential, your ticket, you might need those things, right? You show up and you don't have it, you left it home or whatever. Just reminders, don't pull the Kelce. Luckily, he could just go to a mall and buy another shirt. But
it didn't look good on his tits, which probably you could say now on ESPN.
Who knew? I didn't know.
Hey, every week we do this, and next week we'll give you some great football picks as we're starting to get situated with the NFL season. Week 2 kicks off tonight. Who do you got? Bills or Dolphins?
Ooh, Dolphins. Yeah.
I'm going Dolphins too. Let's go. We'll see you guys later. Arrivederci, baby.
See you in the overpromised land.
Goodbye.